Welcome, Mr. Atack. If you would introduce yourself and tell us why you want to be a judge.
Well, thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be here today. I'm honored to be in front of this committee, and in the short amount of time that we have today, I hope I can impart 3 things about me. They do bleed into each other. I recognize that in rehearsing for this, but I think there are things that make me an excellent candidate for this job. First is that I am of and from Flagler County. I have deep roots in this county. I attended the 1 elementary, the 1 middle, and the 1 high school that this county had in the 80s and 90s, along with all the other school-age children. My family moved here in 1978. I've always considered Flagler County my home. I'm sure you know I have a particular fondness for the office of Flagler County Judge. I cannot talk about my application for this position without mentioning both of my parents held this position. As I said in my application, I don't feel entitled to this job at all, but I mention them because I learned from them growing up. When I was in kindergarten, my father was elected to the county bench. So I grew up understanding the social dynamic that comes with being involved, that is involved with being a county judge. Watching my father on the bench and then out in public, and my mother in those same situations, I came to understand that the county judge is really the judge that most people in the community are likely to come into contact with. That's because I believe that most people are not going to see a circuit court. A lot of people do get traffic tickets, though. A lot of people know somebody that has a misdemeanor or who has been in small claims court. And those people's only experience with the legal system in their communities is going to come from their interaction with the county judge. So being from here, I have a vested interest in making sure the people of my community aren't just treated fairly, but that they have all their questions answered and they feel like they were heard in court, and that they might even walk away from their experience with a decent taste in their mouth. I watched both my parents earn the respect of this community, and I plan to do the same if I'm appointed to this position. The second and another distinguishing aspect of my application is that I tried very hard to get this same job in 2012. In the general election in 2012, I earned 49% of the vote in this community. They trusted me and wanted me to be the next county judge. We won the primary in August, and between February and August, my wife and I spent our weekends walking door to door. We walked a good chunk of Palm Coast. We walked a lot of Flagler Beach and some of the west side of the county. And I was surprised at how few of the people that answered the door and I spoke to didn't know that my mom was retiring or had no idea that my dad was a judge. I attribute that a lot to how much this county's grown in the last 30 years. Nonetheless, we won the 7-person primary, and I attribute that victory to us taking the time to talk to people and go to their door. And I enjoyed that experience of campaigning. I look forward to doing it again, and I believe I could hold this seat if I was appointed to it. The third thing is, so that was in 2012. And leading up to 2012, my career consisted of handling a misdemeanor docket in Daytona Beach as an assistant public defender, where I worked for 2 to 3 years in Daytona Beach misdemeanors. I worked for 2 to 3 years in Daytona Beach in the felony division. I then transferred to St. Augustine, where I continued to handle serious felonies, and I was our office's drug court representative. Since 2013, I've transferred to our appellate division in back in Daytona Beach, where I handle appeals for the 5th District. And I'm also the sole attorney in our office that handles the sexually violent predator docket. I'm going to refer to that as the SVP docket for the remainder of this introduction. So I come to you now with experience handling a case from arrest to sentencing from my trial experience, and now I have post-conviction experience that I can present to the committee, which I would hope gives you some confidence that I will handle a docket efficiently, and that cases won't have to be retried or things of that nature. My experience working this SVP docket has made sure that I stay in the courtroom. I'm still picking juries for our clients. I still have to handle motion hearings, so I'm not just behind a computer reading transcripts and looking at Westlaw all day. I'm still in the courtroom quite a bit. But it's also exposed me to some civil law, and I think that's useful for the committee's consideration for my application. I'm not just a criminal lawyer. The SVP docket is sort of a hybrid between criminal and civil work, but it doesn't involve civil work. One thing I think of that a county judge needs to be able to do is be an administrator, and I believe my experience on the SVP docket, I don't know how many of you all are familiar with it, but clients are at some place between, they're in DOC waiting to perhaps be committed to go into the involuntary civil commitment, or they've been committed and they have their cases reviewed annually, or they could be towards the end of their treatment, in which case some experts are saying that they should be released, some are saying they shouldn't. Each one of those clients is at a different posture. And being the only lawyer, myself and my secretary are responsible for making sure none of these clients fall through the cracks. So that requires some administrative abilities. We really have to be the impetus to move these cases because we're making sure these cases go somewhere. That requires coordinating experts throughout the state and managing staff. Some other considerations might include temperament. I've always had my parents to look to for judicial temperament. I'm aware of the so-called black robe syndrome. I have every intention of emulating the judges in our circuit that have a good judicial temperament. I spent my career working with people, starting as a teacher, and I think I'm an open-minded, patient, calm, and I know how to communicate difficult information to people. I'm adept at legal writing. I make decisions quickly and clearly. And I think it's important for a county judge to have some experience in doing trial work. I believe, or I have a good reputation as a trial attorney. I've oftentimes had to handle difficult, complex cases with also difficult clients. I think the judges in our circuit respect me, and that they would acknowledge that I'm timely and respectful of everyone in the courtroom. I'm financially responsible, I'm mentally healthy, I'm technologically savvy, and I think that's important for especially the Flagler County judgeship, in that this county's just really grown, and we need someone that's not going to have to deal with any kind of learning curve, technological or otherwise. So I present to you as somebody who can step into the job and do a good job with it and make sure this caseload moves at its appropriate speed.
Mr. Atack, I want
Yes.
to give the commission a chance to ask you
Okay.
questions, because I bet they have some. You touched on one. Other than your parents, who would be judges that you would emulate?
Judge Campbell is somebody that I've seen in first appearances, and I've worked with her for a short period of time in this office in Bunnell when she was an assistant public defender. I feel like she's got a great demeanor, works well with all the defendants. She's somebody.
Other commissioners' questions?
That SVP,
Yes,
is that a civil proceeding or a criminal proceeding?
it's civil.
So that has given you some civil experience?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
At the tail end of or merging into your criminal experience?
Yes. Yep.
And is it trial work?
Oh yeah. Yep. So a detainee is their appropriate title when they're in DOC and the state decides that this is somebody who may qualify as a sexually violent predator. They'll send experts to DOC who will interview those folks, and then once that probable cause is determined, they wait in DOC for a trial with 6 people to see if a jury believes that they should be committed as a sexually violent predator. So that requires picking a jury and having a trial. And then so the rest of that, there's an annual review is what they call it. That's when experts will review the person's file and decide if there's probable cause to believe that they should go to a release trial. And if they go to a release trial, then we kind of have a battle of the experts. Or sometimes both experts agree they should be released, and then the judge signs an order.
You're not a member of any local bar associations. Why not?
I don't have a good answer for that. I am not a member of, I think maybe I work in Daytona. On Wednesdays, people go to the Oyster Pub for the defense meetings. I would go to those for a while, but I've just sort of stopped doing that. I don't know, it might have to do with working in the appellate office. I'm around 22 other lawyers all day, every day. Working in Daytona, living in Flagler, I don't really have a good answer for that, besides that I'm around lawyers a lot.
Are you familiar with the change that's coming up in the county court jurisdiction, and what effect do you think that'll have on your caseload?
I'm not aware of the change. What is the change?
The jurisdictional limit.
Oh, in civil court?
Yes.
Oh, no, I'm not aware of. Well, I would imagine that is the jurisdictional amount increasing?
Yes.
So that would increase the caseload, I would think.
Do you have an opinion on how much it would increase your caseload?
Oh, I mean, I can't answer that without knowing what the caseload is. I would just imagine it'd be more cases. Fewer people would have to pay the money to get into circuit court.
You will encounter pro se litigants as a county court judge. Can you share with us your philosophy about how to judge interact with pro se litigants?
I think that would be a lot like how I interact with my clients as an assistant public defender. A pro se litigant, how should a judge should be patient and should listen to what their questions are and guide them as best they can without giving them legal advice. And then I think that there's a certain amount of what the state attorney and defender are okay with the judge, making sure that the case moves along. So if we had a prosecutor that really objected to a judge kind of helping a pro se litigant along with him, that would be the boundary, I believe. But I've dealt with, I don't know how to categorize pro se litigants, but I feel like a lot of my clients sometimes want to be pro se litigants, just the nature of the public defender's office, and so I just feel like I've had some experience helping folks like that.
Now, I understand, again, that a lot of the responsibilities for this new position is going to involve probate work, just sharing some of the responsibilities. What would you do in order to bring yourself up to speed with respect to probate law?
I would first look to Judge, sorry, not more stems, but Stempler. Disler, sorry. I would look to her for some guidance, first and foremost, but then I could take CLEs and read up on it as fast as I could. I could also ask my mother about it. I don't know, I would reach out to whoever I could to learn more about it as fast as I could.
Any other questions? Anything you want to leave us with?
I didn't quite finish my introduction.
Finish.
Okay.
You have a few minutes.
I mean, just to conclude, I feel like I have the experience and temperament to be a county judge, especially in Flagler County. And I have very deep roots in this community. As I said, I was raised here, I live here, and I'm raising my family here. And I just think that's important for a county judge, to know the people of the community that they're presiding over, as I said in the beginning, because that's who most people are going to interact with in their local legal system. And also that in 2012, 49% of the voters trusted me to be the county judge. I think that's important, that I feel like I earned those votes, and I enjoy campaigning for the job. This position means a lot to me personally and professionally, and I just hope I've conveyed that in my application.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.